Nancy, and welcome to Garden Scroll. Today is the last day of July, and July has been pretty hard on me in the garden. Even though we did have a few days of a wonderful, a little bit cooler weather, enough cooler weather to give me a break and help me enjoy the garden for a few days. But the heat is back. It's probably around 95, give or take a few, probably give. I don't think it's taken much away from us. And I'm hoping that August won't be, at least it won't be any worse. It's still a long way to go, probably, before the cooler weather sets in. And then I don't know how long we'll have in the cooler weather, but I'm hoping we have quite a bit of cooler weather before it brings us a frost to kill everything. I'm thinking about clipping back these little coleus. They look so good, but underneath there are some garden decor that would be pretty there too. I'm not sure if I'll do that yet, but that is in my mind to do that, and just kind of see how that goes. It's awfully hot to be working out here at all, and I have to be out in it to water, and so we'll just see. I'm going to wait and see before I make a decision on that, but I am thinking strongly about clipping some of this back so I can see things a little better, and I think it maybe just would be plain neater, but we'll have to wait and see, because honestly it's pretty now with it looking kind of overgrown. It's kind of a fine line, I guess, between lush and overgrown. Today was a busy day in the garden, which it always is. It just always is. Even if the only thing I do is move the sprinkler around for most of the day, and then hand water where the sprinkler didn't get. But today I not only did that, but I also put some plant food on everything, as well as inside I did a little bit too. I took all my sheets off and washed them and put them back on, which is still a pretty hard job for me, because I can't still get on my knees when I have to reach across the bed. I pretty much have to just get up on there and roll my whole body around on there until I get the sheet fitted on and going again. But I got that done, and I got the watering and the feed, the plant food on, so I'm feeling good about that. And the day before that I actually got out and trimmed a little in the back. I didn't trim a whole lot. I told my husband that and sometimes when I trim it, it looks like it's been to the beauty shop and got a haircut, but this time it looks more like I just cut its bangs, because it does look a little neater, but it's not anything to really just brag about either. But I feel good about getting done what I did get done. And I need to take this little plant. I redid its pot once, but it's obvious that this needs a deeper pot. Its little roots are growing up out of the ground, or the soil there, and I want to get that in a deeper pot before very long. So even though we may have another month of hot weather, which I'm hoping we don't, not the whole month. I hope we have another reprieve as we did last year, but that's actually not the norm for us. Usually August is our hottest. month. So I'm just going to have to wait and see and hope that I and the garden can make it through all that heat. I was watching Laura from Garden Answer last night while I was folding clothes, and even she said that the July weather from her July garden tour, she called it weary. It's making her and the garden weary, and that's just pretty much how I feel too. It's definitely, I think I said, it's just so oppressively hot, but there's just no two ways about it. When the heat gets to be powerful, and that gets to be all you're thinking about in a beautiful garden, and instead of thinking of all this beauty, you're thinking about the heat, and if you're going to make it long enough to get the chores done that you need to do. But that's just the way it is in July and August, and pretty much the only thing that I can do is remember that this too shall pass. It will, even though sometimes it just doesn't feel like it's going to, but it eventually will pass. And the only trouble is that then we're getting into the fall season, and fall can be a wonderful long fall with beautiful weather, or it can be a very short fall with a early frost. We've had an early frost the last 2 years, so I'm thinking maybe it's time for us to get a late frost, and maybe we can enjoy this a little bit longer. So hopefully that's what will happen. But truthfully, we will just have to wait and see what God has in store for us. I did get some little coleus started here with this Ultramanthera, the dark. That's a black knot Ultramanthera in the shade. In the sun, it's more of a maroon color, but in the shade, it's just kind of like almost black, but you can still see lots of green in there too. And then this coleus, which I was so surprised that it rooted in so quickly and did so well. It's actually looking very good here. It wilted a couple of days, and then it just picked itself up and went. So I guess it's already made a root and already ready to go. This is this taller plant right here. Let me get down to the pot of it and then go up from there. That is a flowering maple. So I'm hoping it will flower so I can show it to you. It's called a Butylon, and it's like a little hang down parachute that's striped colors of red and yellow. It's very pretty. This little coleus was just not growing at all, and so I moved it out where it can get more sun. It is a sun coleus, so I guess it just really likes some sun. It wasn't doing very well where I had it under the maple tree, and I think it's already grown a little bit maybe, so we'll see how it does here. I also put some little clippings in here, something I don't even remember what I had in there by this Swiss chard, but it died out, so I put some little clippings of coleus here. They are not looking quite as good as the other one, but I think they're going to make it too. I hope they will. This is the little coleus that I clipped some off the top of it here and put it down here, and you can tell that it is looking better too. I did have to clip some of the wilty stuff off of this, and it's not looking big and great, but at the same time it does look healthy, like it has a root. So if they get their little roots going, they usually just take on and go upward from there. My little impatiens in the strawberry pot are still looking pretty good. I did notice this one right here this one in the middle is not looking so great, but it's still there, so hopefully it will do well. The heat just takes a toll. It takes a very great toll on the garden. Usually if I can just keep it alive till the cooler weather gets here, though, it'll go right on and do well for me. This pretty little mint green licorice is still looking pretty for me. This little blue flowering plant, some of it has already spent, and then some of it is still bright, pretty blue. And the one beside it that I can hardly wait for you to see it in bloom still does not have buds on it. I thought perhaps it did earlier, but as I look down in there, I just don't really see buds. They may be leaf buds, but I don't think they're yet flower buds. I'm still hoping we get some of those that I can show you. And I think I need to go ahead and take out some of these Bells of Ireland, even though this pretty pale green or lime green, I really like that with this Black Knight or Purple Knight alternanthera. But I think because so much of it has already gone to seed that I may go ahead and take that out and put another little coleus or some other little green, or I'm not sure what yet, probably a green colored coleus like maybe this one right here. I've got several of these that need to be trimmed back anyway, so that's a possibility to put that in there. And I think that would make it look neater. Look at this. Here's another little sign of fall. These little peppers, they're not red yet or purple. I think they kind of go purple and then red. But that's a sign of fall when the peppers start coming on. My Nemesia is still going, even in this heat, which is surprising. I love this little tiny plant, or bloom on this plant. I was visiting our local Bible and bookstore, and I saw outside, this is where I used to have a blue fan flower, and it's disappeared in the heat. It's just gone. So I put a little clipping of a coleus there that doesn't really look like it, may not make it either, but theirs was so beautiful. It was just, they had blue and pink, and they were just billowing out of their pot, and they looked great. I want to be able to do that someday. I love that fan flower, all those little pretty ones like the fan flower and the Nemesia and the Tyrinia plant, and I have a hard time with all of them. And then of course the Calabrichoa, which I always try and don't always make it, rarely do I actually. Look what I just now saw. I watered this today and didn't see this, but look, this is my bleeding heart, and it rarely blooms except in the spring, and there it is, that pretty little heart. I'm going to see if I can move and get it better because it's not showing up very pretty here. It's not, you can hardly tell that it's pink. There, hopefully that'll be a little bit better shot for you. You can at least tell that it's pink. It's just a tiny little bloom on there, but it's just such a sweet surprise. A lot of the petunias are still doing well, and a lot of them have just kind of given up. So, but they're always pretty, and they smell so nice. It's so nice to walk out and just have the scent of the petunias just kind of waft up to you. I have a lot of this celosia beginning to bloom. There's a lot in the back also, and that is some of the stuff that I clipped off, just because I had so much back there that it was more overgrown looking than lush and pretty looking. The impatiens seem to always do very well for me. If the roly-polies and snails will leave them alone, they just give them shade and water and they just keep on going. Even though the petunias, sometimes they keep going and sometimes they just fade away. And then in the fall, these pretty little periwinkles, they stay going, but they don't really seem to really shine until the fall. But once the fall comes, they do begin to shine. I'm loving this little red rose. I think it was called Nearly Black Rose, but it's never been nearly black to me, but it has been a beautiful red. I've totally enjoyed it. And this is a pretty little purple, light purple crepe myrtle, which is very small right now. And then there, that one right in front of it, I pointed out to you before, I'm sure, which is a pretty pink. Look, I got a tomato, if it will ripen. I'm terrible with tomatoes too, but I just love plants. I love to enjoy them, and then it's really a surprise and a wonder when they turn out great. And this pretty little petunia has done well so far all season. I noticed another little new clipping that I put in this little pot, and it's doing great too. Look at that. See if I can lift these leaves out a little where they can shine. And I think that's really going to be pretty with this pretty pink, salmon pink geranium. And when this grows up a little bit more, I think that's going to bring that together and make it look really good. I'm hoping it will. Over here is this poor little thing has not done well at all, but you can tell those little clippings are beginning to put their roots down. So once they put their roots down and come on up and out of there, that's going to be pretty. And I'm still hoping for my calabachoa. I can't give up hope on it. One day I'm going to get the knack of that. One thing I know, it does take, they're called heavy feeders, so they need lots of plant food. And I've actually put some of the little house plant food spikes in it, and then I also, of course, I use the plant food on it twice a month, and that's what I just got through doing today. So hopefully tomorrow maybe we'll even have some blooms. And this little calabachoa in the front part of this pot had blooms this morning, but with the watering and everything that's been going on for it, the heat and the water, it's just kind of fizzled out. But they may be back too. And another thing that's blooming are the pretty surprise lilies that I normally notice these in August, but I guess it's close enough to August. Tomorrow will be the 1st. Some of my little scraggly looking pots in the back are beginning to fill out a little. They still have a long ways to go, but you can see right down in there that the coleuses are beginning to look healthy, and so hopefully that'll go ahead and grow on up there and look very pretty. And here's this periwinkle or vinca. I always want to say vinca. That's what I heard it called first, so that's what I always think of. but I think it's mostly called periwinkle. And then here's another one of the surprise lilies, and this is a pretty sweet potato vine, and it was a little more variegated, but it seems like it's lost most of its variegation, but it's still a very pretty little plant. These are not doing so great because of grasshoppers and just the heat. The heat is, oh look, there's some of that variegation I was telling you about. That's how it all looked to begin with, but it's just had a hard struggle. But there's another little coleus, and if this would just all fill out as well as that periwinkle, and the periwinkle would just keep going, this could look pretty too. It's about 8 o'clock in the evening now, and it's just now beginning to be nice enough that it feels good to be out here. This little area right here is where I did most of the clipping from the celosia that's coming up everywhere. And looks like there's another one that's actually fallen over. I need to get that one up from there. I probably drug my hose across it and broke it over. This one looks like I didn't cut it down because it's so huge already, but you can see that I did. I clipped off quite a bit of this actually, and it was all out in my path, and you can tell where I clipped it off there, but it still looks pretty. It actually looks better, I think. It still has some fullness to it without looking quite so overgrown. I gave my weeping willow its first haircut. The branches had gotten down into my clematis vine, and they were just growing together and intertwining. Looks like there's one that's fixing to do it too. I should have got that little limb too, but you can tell that I got some of them off of there, and it still has the pretty graceful look, so I like that. I think I'm gonna like this little tree, but we'll see. I'm not sure yet. Haven't had it long enough to really be able to tell. I think the only one of my pretty purple splash peppers is this one right here. How tiny, but if it'll grow up and be beautiful, I'll be able to show you what a pretty plant it is. I don't know how many I planted, and that's the only one I got, so I maybe not be able to do any better with the purple splash peppers than I do with tomatoes, but again, that's something I'm going to keep trying on. They're just so pretty. Here's some more of where I cut back the celosia, which is right there. You can tell where I clipped it back, but you probably won't be able to tell it long. It'll grow back and fill out the tops of those. But right now I can see back behind it and see the pots and see the pretty periwinkles coming up there. This is the chocolate plant that'll soon be blooming with the little white tufts, and I just really didn't want to miss all this other stuff, so I clipped those back, and I just think it looks neater. And this is another little tree that got a haircut. You can tell it down at the bottom there, which I probably need to get all that off the bottom of it at some point. I don't even know if I want 3 now I can think of this stalk, but trunks. I don't know if I want 3 trunks on the tree even. I probably cut at least one of those back maybe. But this is a pretty little tree. My mother is the one that gave me this start from hers, and she got hers from my brother, who it was actually at a florist shop, and he got it as a small little tree, and she put it outside and it grew. So she said it has beautiful little white flowers in the spring, and it smells pretty, and the butterflies love it. So, and I've since learned from a friend that goes to my church, she said it's a ligustrum or a privet tree. So, but I think I'm gonna like it. I hope it doesn't get to be invasive. Right now I like it a lot. It's a pretty little tree. And there's some pretty white periwinkle with little yellow dots in the center. I really like these, and they're growing there with the this is black-eyed Susan vine, and I can't remember if this was in yellow or white. I think I have both of them. This one is rose. It's a pretty rose color, and I don't see any blooming right now. It's probably the heat is probably still just too hot for them, but I think they'll come back out and look great a little later. This is some of the prairie coneflower. It's also called Mexican hat. And what's another? It has another name too. I can't think of it right now, but it has several names, and they all fit it really well. This little pot seems to be filling out a little bit more. It's still kind of scraggly looking, but I like it. And if it fills out really well, it could still be stunning by the end of the season. This little pot is still looking good, and even has a little bit of the Calabachoa left, but there's pretty much how I do Calabachoa. As of right now, I'm not giving up. These, of course, are the Black-Eyed Susan plant. There's some more of the celosia over there that I didn't clear out, and some down here that all of this I know I need to pull this up. I don't really want it here anymore. I love the celosia. Let me come over here, because here's some pretty, you can just see how pretty it is. These pretty little spikes of color, but they just put down so many seeds, and it's just too hard to take care of. I want a pretty plant here that'll do well in full sun and come back, a perennial that'll come back every year. I'm having a hard time just letting this go, though. I really like this, so I keep letting some of it go to seed, but it's just too much. It's just too hard. And there's that 9-bark, which I think I am going to love. This little bush, I guess is what you would call it. It's so pretty. It seems like every time I look at it, it's a different color. It's always the pretty fall colors, but you can have fall colors in the middle of summer. I like that. And then more of that celosia, of course, that I need to get rid of and haven't yet, and don't know when I will. It's probably going to be a problem to get rid of it when I finally decide to. Not that I want to get rid of this beautiful 9-bark. I love that. These are some little coleus clippings that I started earlier in the season, and they've already come into their own, and they look so good. And this pretty little copper plant, I love that too. And that beside it is another chocolate plant, which will have the pretty white tufts on it. There's a hosta plant, and of course the big pretty elephant ears. This is a pretty pink bat flower, so I did have some of it come up from seed, and I would actually like to have more of this come up from seed. These little plant stands, underneath them is hardy geraniums, which are not blooming right now, but just the foliage is really pretty. And of course that right beside it is a ornamental onion in the allium family. And there's some of the zinnias, which I love. I like to have lots of zinnias in my garden for summer, but even more for fall, because that's also when they really seem to shine. I'm glad I planted a few in that pot, because I really didn't have a lot come up, unless I have them come up later. There may be some out there that have grown up a ways and I just haven't seen them and noticed them yet, but hopefully there will be. If not, I'll definitely try again next year. Where we cleaned up our little gully that the early season rains caused. My husband brought in some more dirt where it had washed out, and then I don't know if you can see it. I hope you can, but there are little tiny hairs of grass coming up in here. So hopefully they'll soon be big. And these little holes right here that you see in the ground are toads from when I'm watering. Oh look, there's a couple in there. I don't know if you can see that either, but they're definitely there. If I could get where I can see one well enough, I could zone in on it, and you could, when we scare it, it'll jump away there. So they get down in that ground and enjoy it, and then I didn't even know they made a little hole like that. I can't believe I missed that, because I certainly grew up as a tomboy playing with all that kind of stuff. My Henry Iris Rudbeckia is opening. It's just beginning to. They're just barely open. And that's another sign of fall when these open. I don't think I've shown you my little castor bean lately, and it's growing up too. It's still small, but compared to what the size it was when I began showing it to you, it's grown quite a bit. Look at this pretty purple petunia peeking between the trunks of that tree. And here's my calabachoa. I had one in this pot right here last year that did so good. I was so proud of it. This one is trying, but it just can't seem to get up there as well as the other one was. I wish it would, and it may still, but it may, I'm not going to say it may not, because you're snared by the words of your mouth. So I'm just going to keep saying it may still be beautiful, and it could. It has the pretty pale yellow, almost white with the purple in it, and then it has these pretty little yellow mini petunia calabachoa, and then also has the pretty purple. And if those would just really fill out and do well, wouldn't that be a showing? And there's also some type, I can't remember what color, but this is a verbena in here with this also. And then this one has the pretty, I don't know, this could possibly be my favorite. I love the bright yellow with the pretty white that just really brings the color out. But again, it just needs to be full and lush and beautiful, and it's not. So, and then I need to trim a bunch of this off of here too. There's just always so much to do. I can never get it all done. There's a pretty little double petunia. Is this a double? No, I don't think it's a double, but it's pretty. And then this, isn't that pretty? Oh, see, I had a vision for it to be just glorious, but one day I'm still going to get it that way if I possibly can. And then this one over here is another one that I put calabachoa in because I just wanted them to be full of calabachoa, but you can tell it's a scraggly look. It doesn't really look pretty at all, and yet look at that. If it would just do its thing like I want it to, oh, how pretty that would be. But I'm ready to call it a day, and it's been a busy and a long day in the garden, but it's been a good day. Please be sure and like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.